I do appreciate you giving up 10 hours of overnight to join me for 4 hours of afternoon drive.
Thanks for throwing me a life raft for a day. I needed it desperately. Thank you.
And you decide when you come in to put on a John Starks jersey?
Well, I was thinking about what I was going to wear today, and I figured you and I have great history with the Knicks and Nets. Of course, you famously punching me in the arm after Clifford Robinson hit a buzzer beater, tap in, or whatever it was.
It was a tip-in, yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I figured, you know what? I'm feeling good about my Knicks, and I love John Starks. Well, I don't really wear a jersey anymore, but this is for you. This is my gift for you. You get to look at this for the next 4.5 hours.
It just shows that you have to find a jersey from 30 years ago to wear to represent your favorite basketball
Which one are you going to wear? What are you doing with that Durant and Kyrie jersey?
Nobody.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Listen, one thing I've learned from this era is I've sworn off jerseys because I bought way too many for my two sons.
Poor kids.
And the other day, I had to go through the drawer and say, okay, let me take this Kyrie, let me take this Kevin Durant, let me take this Jacob DeGrom and put it in a different drawer.
You should have taken the freebies the Garden sent you. See, you dismissed those freebies the Garden sent. You could have used those.
No, I had to wipe my you-know-what with.
Yeah,
or to
right.
clean my car.
The Nets, LOL, the Nets. I'm
Right.
sorry, I didn't want to get into them, but
your
you know.
system. Go ahead.
No, there's nothing to get out of. Well, I did see a picture, when I was scrolling through, trying to prep for the show through Twitter. I saw Durant in a Suns jersey, and I thought of you, and I felt a little upset. You get to not only see Durant in a Suns jersey, but me in a Starks jersey, and it's got to be rough for you as a diehard Net fan. I actually feel for you.
It's been a very rough transition over the last couple of weeks from a team that could win a championship to a team that's just battling to avoid the play-in tournament. But you know what's funny? And this hit me over the course of literally 24 hours. And let me walk you through this, and then you could say, Evan, that actually makes a lot of sense, or I'm a schmuck. Because I do think there are people who are not going to understand this. Yesterday, I'm watching Max Scherzer.
Okay.
This will all come together, trust me. And Max Scherzer sitting there at his press conference saying, I want to pitch 200 innings. I want to make 33 starts. I want to be out there every 5 days. And I had a reaction to that I've never had, which is, why? No, I don't want him out there for 200 innings. I don't want him out there for 32 starts because I just witnessed a year last year in which the Mets won 100 games. They didn't win the division. It would have been nice if they did. Max missed a bunch of time, but when it mattered the most, he didn't perform at a high level. Last year, in retrospect, I didn't feel this at the time, was a meaningless regular season. Now, I go home, I watch the Knicks, great win against Atlanta. Right. I watch the Nets, great win against Miami. Significant regular season games from a standings perspective.
Right.
And I'm pumped up. You should be pumped up. Knicks jumped up to the 6th seed. Nets are the 5 seed. You can add me, and that's what's weird to me.
It doesn't really do much for me, but whatever, continue.
So then I wake up this morning, and I hear Gio say something interesting that I think the majority of people feel. He said, regular season basketball, I don't care.
Right.
Regular season hockey, I don't care. And it hit me, and I love baseball. It is my favorite sports out. You know that.
It's getting there, you're right.
It's amazing. Does it matter? Because I could argue that last night's basketball games, which you could I absolutely have the right to say doesn't do much for me. G has the right to say doesn't do much for me. I could argue those games had more significance than maybe any regular season game the Mets or Yankees play in a year in which they have a 99% chance to make the playoffs. So, we all used to go nuts about maintenance days. Shouldn't Max Scherzer have maintenance days? Shouldn't Justin Verlander have maintenance days? To a lesser degree, shouldn't Garrett Cole have maintenance days?
Well, I even thought last year going through it, and by the way, I love baseball's regular season more than anything, and until the Phillies did what they did, I always thought that the baseball regular season meant a lot, but I think that the Phillies proved it really doesn't. You could just get in, and as long as you have everything lined up, you're good to go. But I thought last year, as it was happening, okay, well, no big deal if DeGrom's not healthy, as long as he's healthy for the Brave series, for October. Right. Same with Scherzer. And unfortunately for them, they had it lined up the way that they wanted to. Forget what happened, how many starts DeGrom had, how many games Scherzer missed. They were all lined up to go, and they didn't get it done. But, yes, to your point, if Scherzer misses a month or Verlander misses, several weeks, does it matter as long as they're ready to go for October, assuming the Mets could get there? The answer is no, it doesn't.
And look, that's the key, assuming you get there. Obviously, if the Yankees are sitting 5 games under 500 in July, the regular season begins to matter more. If the Mets are underachieving, all of a sudden you look at these regular season games as mattering more. But as we get ready for opening day, we're now 42 days away. Everybody was so excited about pitchers and catchers, as am I. I am excited. The realization is that we are going into a regular season that's very similar to the NBA and the NHL. That's the world we live in. So
No, but don't you think it's like that because of the expectations the Mets and Yankees have?
Twofold.
Because if last year we weren't sure, and by the way, the Yankees, even in a bad year, they win 90 games. They're always in the postseason. Mets have to prove that they could still do that. Like last year was kind of the aberration. They won 101 games.
I definitely think that the expectations both teams are facing are a huge part of this. The other part of it is baseball. Like there are 6 teams that make the postseason. 8 make it in the NBA. We ain't that far off.
Right.
It's really not that big of a difference between who makes it in the NBA and who makes it Major League Baseball.
But it is different with the divisions, the way they're broken down, where in the NBA, I couldn't even name you the divisions. They're so worthless. It doesn't really matter.
But Sal, did winning the division last year matter to the Philadelphia Phillies?
No, but it's going to matter for the standings. I mean, you're not going to be able to have you have division winners make the postseason.
I get it, but if you finish in second or third place and win a wild card spot and win 95 games and you're just healthy at the right time, sure, it sucks to have to play 2-3 extra games.
You still want home field. You'd still like to have that bye. And look, I don't know if I even buy this yet. The postseason's a crapshoot and just got to get in and you got to be lucky. I mean, to a certain extent, I guess. Don't you think the Mets would have benefited last year from winning the division?
No, they would have benefited from it, but you know what else? The Knicks would benefit from home court advantage. The Nets would benefit from home court advantage.
Yeah, but that's why I don't care about the Knicks, because we're talking about 5, 6 seed. If you're telling me we're talking about 4 or 6 seed, different story. Knicks can't get the 4 seed.
No, you are talking about the difference between a play-in tournament and a non-play-in tournament.
No, from 6 to 7, sure.
And you're right, the 4 seed matters a lot more. They're not that far off from that.
Yeah, but they're not realistically. That's my issue with the basketball team.
The
Nets now aren't good enough to be a top 4, after the Durant and Kyrie trade, and the Knicks aren't good enough to be a top 4 regardless.
So it's about not being good enough, or is it about what's actually on the line? Because what's on the line in the NBA and Major League Baseball is very similar now. Like, I used to have this romantic feel about winning a division. Why should I have that?
It still means something.
Yeah, okay, getting a top seed in the NBA means something.
No, the NBA divisions are different. Baseball division still means something.
Why?
It does.
Why?
Winning the division means something, and you do benefit because of it.
Did it benefit the St. Louis Cardinals last year?
All right, but you're giving, so it didn't benefit. Obviously, the Phillies didn't matter. They didn't need to win the division. It still should benefit you in some ways to win the division. Did it benefit the Yankees? It did.
No, it does to a degree, but maybe not enough to make 162 games what it used to be.
If your argument is that the baseball regular season is becoming less meaningful, I'm not going to disagree. I can't, unfortunately, disagree.
What I mean is when I heard Max Scherzer talk yesterday, I had a feeling I hadn't had ever as a baseball fan. I don't want him to pitch that much.
Do you think he was hurt last year, by the way, at the end of the year?
Probably. I mean,
because that is a concern where you talk about Verlander and Scherzer, where everybody, instead of it being, hey, the Mets got 2 of the best pitchers in baseball, it's all about, they got 2 guys that are old and are going to be hurt.
And they have to pitch their best at the right time. Max Scherzer, when he made his 23 starts last year, was awesome. No one could argue that. Guy had the lowest ERA of his entire career.
Yeah.
You love him.
He broke my heart in the end, but I do love him.
You wanted the bet in the 2 biggest starts of the year, yet the guy who showed up, you couldn't wait to get out of town.
By the way,
you can tell me how much you love him.
I almost wasn't going to come in today. I was just going to ask if Spike could push me back a day or 2 because my side was a little tight. I mean, if it were, I knew this was like a legit run or something, I would have made it, but I wasn't sure I could.
But what's the weather like outside?
Yeah,
it's not too cold, so.
I mean, are you kidding me with this guy, DeGrom? It's always something.
It's February 15th.
It would have been your whole show yesterday. We would have led with it on SNY. Like, come on, DeGrom. It's always a push back a day or 2 because of side tightness. Get out of here.
I do agree that it would have been very stressful today and yesterday if Jake was here. But my concern is, was he going to pitch during the season? Is Max going to pitch during the season? Is Justin going to pitch during the regular season? What's funny is Cole is in that league of guys who's an ace in Major League Baseball. I know he didn't have the greatest year last year in the regular season, but I would have less concern about maintenance day and Garrett Cole because the track record is that he makes 33 starts every single year. It's one of the best qualities he has. And then come postseason time, more times than not, he's really good.
He's a beast. I mean, he gives up way too many homers, but yes, you can count on him.
In the postseason, Garrett Cole's track record, as good as Verlander better? As good as Scherzer better? Probably better. I know it's not the same amount of games, but Garrett Cole's been a better postseason pitcher than both those guys.
So you don't like Scherzer? Is that what we're getting to?
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is I don't look at things the way I did 2 years ago, where if Jacob deGrom was pulled, and I know I shouldn't use him as an example because you and John Heyman, have...
I have no issue. First of all, don't put me in the same category as Heyman. That's a whole nother story.
See his piece that he wrote the other day?
No, again?
Oh, my... He can't get enough of this guy.
On deGrom again?
Again,
Let it go, bro. Even I've let it go.
Thank you.
Until it came up. I mean, I couldn't help myself yesterday. Come on, who could? But what did he do? He ripped deGrom for what?
for the differences between DeGrom and Verlander. DeGrom feels soreness. Verlander's a bulldog. DeGrom's like, let's push it back a few days. Verlander's like, it'll be blood coming out of my mouth, and I'll still pitch every
you
5
heard the
days.
stuff. It's true. DeGrom didn't want to pitch, dude. You heard the rumblings, I'm sure, that I've heard
No,
behind
I've never
the
heard
scenes.
that, actually, that he didn't want to pitch. I heard that he was hurt. And you want to call him injury prone. It's fair. He's been injury prone the last couple of years.
He didn't want to tough it out to a point where Scherzer had to be like, yo, let's go here. And other teammates, come on. What's the holdup? DeGrom, he needs to be 100% feeling great, wake up the right side of the bed. If he may have a hangnail, whatever it may be, a bad mood, he doesn't want to take them out.
But you know what's funny about this? In terms of what we're talking about, he was the guy most reliable when it mattered the most.
Correct,
so
because he's the best. Well, that's what's frustrating about it.
No, so despite missing the amount of starts he missed, and Max missed a ton of starts too, if this regular season goes the way the Yankee fans want and the Met fans want, we're going to judge Garrett Cole based on October. We're going to judge Max Scherzer based on October. Think about Garrett Cole and Max Scherzer for a second, because I do actually find this interesting. Garrett Cole's regular season was very average. Would you agree? 3.5 ERA is average for him?
Right. Well, he doesn't dominate the way that you expect an ace to in the regular season.
He has, though.
At times, yes.
That ERA he put together last year was the highest ERA he's had since he was traded to Houston.
Right.
So it was a very average season. We were ripping him on the show. Big Mac would still
He
try
gave
to
up
defend
how many
him.
home runs? I mean,
Yeah. Oh, it's all fair, dude.
Right.
He wasn't great. But then what happened for the most part in October?
Right.
He was awesome.
nice.
So I think most Yankee fans view Cole's years last year as being pretty good. Max Scherzer dominated for 23 starts when he was out there. Yet in the 2 biggest starts he was asked to make,
terrible.
He got booed off the mound. And that's where we are for the Mets and the Yankees when it comes to pitchers and really everybody. You want them to have a great regular season.
It's always been like C-Mac obviously can attest, but we know that with the Yankees, it's like that for every year. It's World Series of Bust. They're going to be judged on what they do in October. Are the bats going to do what they did in the regular season? In the playoffs, that's how it is. The Mets are now there where
100%.
It doesn't matter. But do you like that? It kind of does take a little bit away, to your point, from the regular season. It does feel, it's just different where it doesn't matter what Verlander and Scherzer do as long as they get there.
Yes.
Because same thing last year. The 101 wins meant nothing because in the biggest spot in Atlanta, they got their teeth kicked in. And then again against the Padres.
I don't like it, but it doesn't matter if I like it. This is reality. You know what I mean? Like me whining about, but 10 years ago it was this or 20 years ago it was this. Doesn't do anybody any good. So it doesn't matter if I like it or not. This is the reality. And the reality is, as excited as I am, you are, and everybody else is, for pitchers and catchers reporting, we are headed towards a regular season in baseball that's not only 162 games, but I think as the years go by, certainly this year, it's going to start to feel meaningless. Because the regular season in baseball ain't that different than the regular season in the NBA.
I'll tell you where it won't feel meaningless. You tune in the overnights after that. Every one of those bad boys, I'm milking each one of them. I need that content. What are you kidding me? You think there's meaningless games in April or May? Not here, there ain't.
But Sal, here's the truth of this. So, and I think I'm a rarity in this. When the Nets lose and I bring this up only because I'm a Nets fan. When the Nets lose a regular season game, it doesn't matter if Katie and Kyrie are there. I get very upset.
I know
when
you care
they
about it. I
win,
give you credit for that.
So I'm caring no matter what. So yeah,
I don't know
I'll
why,
still,
but you do.
Because it still matters.
It doesn't.
Of course it does. The NBA regular season in ways matter more than the baseball season.
No, but I disagree.
The Nets and Knicks right now are battling to avoid a play-in tournament. The Mets and the Yankees may have a 97% kind of ride into the postseason.
Yeah, but that's what it is on paper going in. And again, the Yankees have proven themselves. I wouldn't worry about them. The Mets could miss the postseason. You could paint a picture. What if either Alonso or Lindor don't perform to what they did last year for whatever reason?
You do the same thing with the Yankees. If Aaron Judge doesn't play.
So what? The Yankees are still going to win 90 games. They do it every year. Go back to the season where Judge did miss.
A year ago, if Aaron Judge didn't play when he's hitting 63 home runs, where did the Yankees finish?
The Yankees are deeper. Last year, maybe a different story because they struggled. Yeah, I know they needed them last year.
But I'm using last year as an example. He was such an MVP that if he wasn't around, forget the division.
The second half, the Yankees were dreadful, and they still won the division, really without being tested. So the Mets aren't there. They had the 2 old pitchers. If those guys don't perform, who knows, or get hurt. If Alonso, basically you have 2 guys in that lineup that you rely on to drive in runs, in Lindor and Alonso. A little different story. The Yankees are deeper.
Well, so here's my, and by the way, I got horrible news, just really, really sad news. A guy who I grew up listening to, a guy you grew up listening to. I thought he was one of the great broadcasters of all time. I loved hearing his voice. Tim McCarver has passed away at the age of 81. And that is heartbreaking. That's your childhood, right? Like, you're with me on this.
I love Tim McCarver. Did I ever tell you the story about when I met him once? I used to go out to And I loved him as a broadcaster. Obviously, I didn't watch him as a player. I mean, I'm familiar with what he did.
We heard the stories about him and Bob Gibson. I think Bob Gibson once told him, as Tim McCarver went to the mound, Bob said, "Get back behind home plate. The only thing you know about pitching is that you can't hit it." Which was a legendary story. But go ahead.
He was great. And I grew up listening to him doing Met games, and obviously then on Fox when he was a national broadcaster. But one year actually I called Francesa as a caller, Sal Roncong. I called him to tell him the story. I saw McCarver at Shea before the game coming in, and I had a Blue Mets hat, and I was like, "Oh my God, Tim McCarver, legend! Can you please sign my hat?"
Time out before you continue.
Yeah.
If this story leads to Tim McCarver refusing to sign your hat, I'm going to punch you like Clifford Robinson that night. Go ahead.
So this is what happens. I go, "Tim, can you please sign my hat?" He goes, "A blue pen on a blue hat. Now who's going to see that?" And he kept going. He didn't sign it. And I was like, "But Tim, you're a blue pen on a blue hat? No one's going to see that." And he had a book out, and he goes, "See the book? Buy it." And he kept walking in.
That's the story you decided to tell.
But I still love him. It's the only story that I've had with him, the encounter. He's a great broadcaster.
Let me defend Tim McCarver. Why would he waste his time signing a blue hat with a blue pen?
So that's exactly what Mike goes, "Well, next time bring a white hat." When I called in to tell. Can I just tell you one story? I think it was when McCarver left the Mets to go do games for the Yankees. Remember that? So I called in and told that story. But that sucks to hear about that. My heart is broken because he was my childhood.
He was not only, growing up with the Mets, and then he went to the Yankees. You're right, did the Yankees for a bunch of years. But him and Joe Buck. Like, I think of that big baseball moment. Joe Buck and Tim McCarver were the team. And they did it for a while. I'm trying to remember when McCarver stepped aside for eventually. I guess John Smoltz replaced him. I don't know if there was anybody else.
Wasn't it Harold Reynolds?
Was it? I don't
initially,
remember.
I thought that it was. Which going back probably a while now, but I think the greatest compliment you can pay an announcing team. We were just talking about this recently because of Burkhardt and Olsen taking over. That big game feel. Anytime you heard Tim McCarver, you had that big game feel.
100%. He is. For my demographic and age, because I'm sure if someone's 55, they're going to disagree, or younger, disagree. When I think of an analyst for each sport, like NBA, baseball, football, when it comes to football, it's John Madden. Right? We grew up with John Madden. When it comes to baseball, it's Tim McCarver.
Agreed.
And it's not, and by the way, it's not even close. Like, there's no one even close.
That's a good point. Because we could, who is the next? Is it Smoltz right now?
John Smoltz would be the guy, and he's terrible.
He's not even close to that
John
level.
Smoltz hates baseball. Tim McCarver loved baseball. No, that's the answer. That's my explanation.
I don't think he hates baseball.
Tim
he may like golf a little
McCarver-
bit more, but no, McCarver loved the game.
He would talk about the game as if it was a love affair. John Smoltz talks about the game as if, when's this stupid thing going to end?
McCarver and Kiner. Those were my guys growing up. Now, that might be a little bit before, or you remember those
No, I
years?
do, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I don't remember the exact years. I just remember growing up watching those guys do Met games.
That's horrible news. So condolences to his family. When Loogie came in and handed this to me, and the first thing I saw was Tim McCarver. My stomach dropped, and I was hoping he's coming back. Like, I was hoping Smoltz is gone.
Going to do like five spring training games for SNY?
Oh, that would have been great. That would have been great. Speaking of SNY, they got a major problem. We'll address that coming up. They did something that even you can't defend.
What?
They
what is
did
your
something.
issue?
I love SNY.
Okay, just making sure.
But there's something they did that they can't defend.
Too. Yeah.
No, I know you do. We get that.
I love them very, very, very much. Yes.
They gave you an off day, and then you're going on SNY again,
Which
essentially.
is bizarre, right? Exactly.
We are coming to you live from the Town Fair Tire Studios, powered by Town Fair Tire. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. A lot to get to. Obviously, the quarterback searches in the NFL. Sal will try to convince us that Matt Ryan is a god.
Oh, God. Didn't take you long to get to
and
there.
And the Jets should bow down and just pray to his altar. Because not only can he quarterback, but he can teach. We'll get to that coming up.
You're up on it. I look forward to having this conversation with you.
I listen to you a lot.
I appreciate that.
Piss me off like 48% of the time.
Is that a good thing or not? I don't know.
I mean, it's half and half, right?
At least you're listening. Right? I appreciate it. But I do want to have this convo with you. It was on my list of things to get to as well.
Oh, do you? You have a list?
A small list, yeah.
The first thing on his list was Katie and Kyrie left and they're not coming back.
No, the first thing on my list was wear Knicks gear. As a matter of fact, I'm disappointed because I ordered this nice Mitchell & Ness warm-up Knicks jacket and it didn't come. And I paid for the 2-day shipping and the damn thing didn't show up. So you just get this jersey.
You know what's crazy? Usually I get made fun of, rightfully so. I don't mind being made fun of that. Everything I wear looks like it came from Dick's Sporting Goods. That I wear, Nets sweatshirts, Mets sweatshirts, hoodies, and all that. But the one thing I don't wear, because I'm not a child, is jerseys.
Me neither.
And
but this is a special occasion. A special occasion. I broke this out I actually have not worn this ever outside of my house. This is the first day. I just bought it because I always wanted one.
Well, one thing about John Starks, and don't argue with me about this because everybody knows it's true, even though John won't admit it.
Plus
the time
the number
I brought
3
it up to
with
him.
Hart right now. You know what I mean? It's relevant with Hart, but go ahead. Yeah.
John Starks dirtily injured Kenny Anderson. And I know that Kenny is listening right now and would deny it.
Is he?
No. Yes. Huge fan of Sal Licata. You didn't know about that?
No, does Kenny
Huge
Anderson
fan.
listen to the show?
Huge fan of you, personally.
Well, I'm sure he's a big fan of yours and Carter.
I know that Kenny would want to say that's not true, Evan. Stop saying that, but we all know the truth.
Quickly before you break, I have to tell this story because it's relevant. I met Kenny Anderson once at The Wiz. Remember Nobody Beats The Wiz?
I do.
It was an autograph signing. So they gave me like the 8x10, whatever. I go up to him. You know what I said to him? Kenny, have you ever met John Starks? What's he like?
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't mean anything by it. I was legit just a nut about John Starks, and he's like, he was disgusted with me.
That does remind me.
And he was there with Tammy from The Real World. Remember he used to marry her? Yeah.
Yes.
She was walking around shopping for CDs.
I don't know if your story's better than mine. It may be, and you can be the judge, fellas. I was once at a baseball camp. I may have told this story. I apologize. I don't mean to pull a Carton. So act surprised, fellas, when I say this. It's at a baseball camp, and there's a guest.
The balls for everybody.
What was that?
Never mind. Good.
Okay. Jackass over there. There's a guest instructor at baseball camp, and it's Andy Pettit.
Okay.
And he's teaching everybody his pickoff move. It was great. Andy was a great teacher. And we were each allowed to give Andy one item to sign.
Oh, God.
So I show up with a ticket stub. I go up to Andy. I hand him the ticket stub. He looks at it and he says,
I hope it's the first ever.
what's this? I said, oh, Andy, that's the first ever Mets-Yankees game. So Andy looks back and says, but I lost that game. And I said, I know, Andy. And I put my Met hat on. And this is why Andy's a class guy. Hysterical laughing, loved it, said, that's a good one, young man. Signs it. No problem.
Look at that. See? Tim McCarver. He could have just signed the hat and keep it moving.
Tim McCarver wasn't going to waste his time
Just trying to bring it
using
full
a
circle.
blue pen on a blue hat.
Who's going to see that? I don't know, but I know who's going to talk about it several years later on the radio.
Yeah, like minutes after we find out he passed away.
It's just my one story. I still love the guy.